Hello everyone, and thank you very much for watching this video. In the next few minutes, we'll be talking about reinforcement learning in healthcare, and I'll be discussing some of the opportunities and challenges associated with this new field of research. If we want to take a step back and if we were to define what machine learning is, really what this is about learning from the data. And there's really three pillars in machine learning. The first one being supervised learning, and then you have unsupervised learning, and the third aspect is reinforcement learning, which we'll be talking about in a bit more detail. Supervised learning, if we were to define this, it's about learning the relationship between input data and an output data. So what we call learning a function between x and y, and within supervised learning, two really famous subtypes of supervised learnings are regression and classification algorithms, and I will be giving you an example in a few seconds. The second aspect is unsupervised learning, where we learn about the structure in the data. So this is called unsupervised because we have no idea, but the data is unlabeled. We don't need to know the specific categories of data before they're fed into the algorithm. And in unsupervised learning, two really well used types of algorithms are clustering and dimensionality reduction. We won't be going into any detail about this. And the third aspect is reinforcement learning, where this is a bit different in the sense that what we want to do is learn an optimal strategy. Let's talk about an example of supervised learning to start with. Of course, I chose an example that comes from the field of healthcare, and this was a very groundbreaking paper that was published in 2017 in the journal Nature, showing that a computer system was able to diagnose skin lesions with at least as good accuracy as the most experienced dermatologists. So this is an example of supervised learning where the data used for training the model is labeled, meaning that we know which lesions were cancerous, which lesions were non-cancerous when training the model. But let's jump straight into reinforcement learning. The intuition behind reinforcement learning is that what we want to do is learn an optimal strategy, and it's often, I would argue, it's often more complex than prediction tasks, such as the one we saw in the previous example about skin lesions. The idea behind reinforcement learning, and here is a very simplistic example. If you think about a rat in a maze, this example will simply define some of the elements that are necessary in order to implement reinforcement learning algorithms. So in this example, think about a rat in a maze. The rat is the agent, the maze is the environment, and the agent can be in lots of different states that are represented by the cells in this maze. In every state of the system, the agent has the choice of making different actions, can go up, left, right, or down. And the objective of the agent is to maximize the reward, to reach cells associated with a reward as often as possible, and to avoid cells associated with a penalty as often as possible. And the actions that lead to reward are reinforced, hence the term reinforcement learning. And if we take a very, very, very simplistic approach, this could be put in parallel with healthcare, where we have a patient. The patient can be in various health states and various clinical conditions, and the objective of physicians and the healthcare system in this example is to take the patient from state to state by intervening on our patient, and with the objective of bringing this patient home rather than sending him to the cemetery. So again, in this example, we have different states, and the agent, the physician, has different options of actions and interventions in every state of the system, and the objective of the doctor is to send the patient home to maximize the reward, if survival is the reward. Taking a step back, we can think about how do doctors achieve this. So typically nowadays, when a patient comes in the hospital with a particular presentation, what doctors do is that they will be gathering data about this new patient, examining them, doing all sorts of assessment and examinations. Then they will use their theoretical medical knowledge as well as their clinical experience, meaning all the cases they have previously encountered. All this information will be integrated and will lead to a medical decision. The problem is that this is a very, very suboptimal approach for various reasons. A very important aspect is that humans are full of biases, and cognitive biases in medical decisions is a very significant problem. For many diseases, many clinical problems, we don't have a physiological model, or sometimes we lack theoretical knowledge. So personally, I'm an intensive care doctor. I don't pretend to have all the medical knowledge about all the medical specialties in the world, for sure. Also, human doctors are not perfect. They sometimes forget cases that they have encountered in the past. Sometimes the cases are so rare that very few people can even make a diagnosis. Sometimes we get the diagnosis wrong. And practice variation is also a huge problem.